10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, welcome back to another edition of the Rising Coaches Member Spotlight. Today, we're joined by Coach Dre Jefferson, coming to us live from Minnesota, where it's already snowing, huh?
Yep. First snow of the year so far.
I don't envy it. Dre, how are you today, man?
I'm doing well. Aside from the snow, I'm good.
Good. Well, I appreciate you being on here and looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better. Maybe you can start off by telling us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, how you got into basketball, and eventually into coaching.
Yeah, so I grew up in Minneapolis. I've been here my whole life. Grew up on the north side of the city. I went to Park Center High School, played there throughout my high school career, and then ended up playing in college. After a time in JUCO, I went to UW Stout to play for my high school coach. Actually, he got a coaching job out there. So went to play out there in college, had a really good couple years out there, and was, really unsure what I wanted to do. After that, I knew I wanted to play. So trying to jump on the professional circuit, get overseas, had some opportunities that, playing overseas sounds a lot more glamorous than it is a lot of times, for guys at my level. So I had to make a decision, and a friend of mine asked me to get into training. And, I'm a preparation person, so I really wanted to study it and understand what it was before I got into it. So I actually enjoyed it a lot, when I started to research, kind of the tools and a lot of the people who were into it at that time in 2010, and got into training kind of heavy and started training for, a couple of high school programs, boys high school programs, and then became a JV coach and fell in love with coaching from then on out. I got into the girls side probably in 2013. My daughter was 2.5 years old, and I wanted to bring her to the gym with me. And she said, well, I don't know if I want to go because girls don't really play basketball day. And I'm like, oh, man, I got to get into the girls side so she can see what's going on. So I can bring her in and she kind of feels connected to it. So I've been 10 toes down with girls basketball ever since, and I really enjoy it.
That comment by your daughter just flipped the switch for you, huh?
Oh, yeah, no question. With her, she's always kind of taken interest in things that I've exposed her to. But, for her to, being barely a toddler, like not really seeing that because, I didn't really watch it at the time. I wasn't around it ever. So, she didn't know. And it blew me away. So I knew I had to do something different.
That's awesome. Okay, let's go back to your playing days. First of all, Minnesota, very underrated basketball city, or Minneapolis, very underrated basketball city, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Really good basketball. I feel like you have great coaching. You got guys that know how to play. Plus, they seem to be tough up there. Maybe it's the cold. Maybe it's the cold winters. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the gym all from September on. It's too cold to go outside. Like, if you're not a football person, you're in the gym. So, from a young age, there was always a place to play. You know what I mean? Like schools, open gyms, community centers, and everybody from around Minneapolis, you kind of flock to the same open gyms. You kind of be in the same places. So, it's super competitive because being kind of a smaller area, like everybody's kind of concentrated within Minneapolis and St. Paul, you're competing against the top people all the time. It's not spread out. A lot of states, you have different regions where there's competitive players. In Minnesota, it's really Minneapolis and St. Paul and there's, kind of surrounded areas. So everybody's in the same areas competing all the time through fall league, high school, AAU, summer, just pick up, going to different gyms. Like we're always around the same people. And it's kind of the iron sharpen irons type of thing.
So what were you like as a player, Dre? Like you came into the open gyms or even in your college days, what was the scouting report on you?
I was going to shoot. I was the person I was going to shoot first, ask questions last. It was Probably 7th grade, I hit a growth spurt. I ended up being 6'4", 6'5", growing pretty quick. And, like most tall kids, they stuck me in the post. And that kind of helped me, obviously, being one of the bigger kids at that age. But, a lot of people thought, coaches especially, thought I was going to be 6'8", 6'9", and be a post player. So I'm still 6'5" today. So I didn't hit another area of growth to be able to grow into a big physical player. So I kind of realized in 9th grade, maybe 10th grade, that I had to transition to being a guard if I wanted to play at the next level. So, my high school coach, he told me, if you want to play, you're going to have to play in the post. And so I kind of took it on throughout high school. I think the one thing that I loved about my playing experience is that I had coaches that were honest with me, and they were coaches that they didn't just look out for me, on the basketball court. Like my coaches gave me a ride home. Like I went to school in the suburbs and lived in the city. So, my head coach in high school, he lived down the street from me. So he would give me a ride home and pick me up for school in the mornings and, talk to me about life and just taking advantage of opportunities. And so he was like, yeah, I know what you want to do, but right now you're best suited to get on the court playing the post. So, my senior year, we had a lot of talent. We were one of the top 10, top 5 teams in the state. Had several D1 guys on our roster. So it was a battle for me to earn minutes, to be in the rotation, and I had to fight for it, and I thought I could fight for it by scoring. And that was my thing. And, I had one of our assistant coaches told me one day, Coach Dixon, who, I still got love for to this day. He told me, if all we needed you to do was score, we wouldn't play you. We got enough people that could score. We need you to do the other things. And so I really had to focus on rebounding and playing defense and, being more than just a shooter. And that kind of set me up for college because I always wanted to score a bunch of points. Like a lot of kids, I wanted to be the person that scored 20 a game. When I got to college, I'm like, this is harder than I thought it was. Like scoring a lot of points isn't easy. Like you got to be focused on the other aspects of the game to make sure you're making an impact every night.
For sure. So you mentioned being a shooter. Like, are you catch and shoot guy from deep, or are you shooting off the bounce? Something about me tells something. I don't know why. I'm just getting the feel that you're shooting off the bounce.
Yeah,
you're one of those tough shot makers. I don't know why. You just get that vibe.
That's true. I take tough shots. I feel like I can make tough shots. Even now playing in men's leagues with my friends or anything, like they'll tell me for sure, like you don't turn down shots. Because I put in a lot of work. I was that dude who I was in the gym, especially when I got to college and I kind of learned how to work out and how to work on my game. I was on the Dr. Dish. I was on the gun 2-3 hours a day. I'm in the gym working on my handles. I put in the work. So I felt like I've earned those shots because I've grinded out to make myself a better player. But I definitely wanted to be the go-to person. So I couldn't just be a catch and shoot player. I wanted to be able to create shots, for myself and be the person that had the ball when the game was on the line. That was one of the things I always thought about.
So now on the other side of the bench where you're coaching, like traditionally and as the game, like as analytics, become more prevalent, the mid-range pull-up is technically a bad shot and all that stuff.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your players, shooting step backs or shots off the bounce, creating their own? Are you yelling at them like how would you have coached yourself? Would you have been like move the ball, or would you have been like, one of those coaches to say, hey, if you work on it, go for it?
So I would have hated to coach myself, honestly. I was a player that thought I was way better than I was at the time. I thought I was going to the league. You couldn't tell me I wasn't going to the league when I was 17, 18 years old. And that was probably the worst thing possible. But I think as I matured, I didn't do anything in the game that I hadn't worked on tirelessly. So I've always been that kind of coach where I want players to have freedom. I don't want them to be scared to make mistakes. And, I kind of grew up in an environment where coaches supported me making those bad decisions and learning from them. And they wanted to be able to hold us accountable and hold me accountable for the choices we were making. So all right, you go out there, you do something wrong, you're gonna hear about it. You're not gonna avoid, getting the earful, but at the same time, we want you to grow from it and learn from it. So next time you go out there, you don't do the same thing. So I've always been that person where I want players to have that certain level of freedom, that allow me to kind of grow my game. And I want to do it the right way, where we're going to put in the work also outside of, the game times. Like, we're going to work harder than anybody else in the off season. We're going to work harder than anybody else in the preseason, because I want you to have that confidence in your game to know you put in the work. So go out there and do it.
Yeah, I love it. Another thing you touched on earlier that I wanted to get back to was, and you hear this all the time, like you were tall growing up,
Yeah.
so they put you in the post, and then, I don't know if it put you behind, but you had to transition to the guard spot later in life.
Yeah.
How do you approach that with your girls now? Like, because there are some, sometimes you get a talented kid that happens to be tall, and
Right.
they have more of a skill set than just being back to the basket. But you need their height down low. You need them to rebound. It's like a balance, right, between what your team needs and what the athlete needs. So how do you kind of handle that with your athletes?
I've always tried to use players as complete players and try to develop them. When you have kids that are 13 to 17, they're, a work in progress all the time. So you want to give them every opportunity to grow their skill set on the perimeter, but also in the post. Being in the post helped me. I think when I got in certain situations where I had a smaller defender guarding me, or I had, an advantage around the basket, I was going to take advantage of that because I had the skill set. I developed that at a young age to be able to go inside and make the game easy for myself. So I tell kids that all the time. I mean, you want to be versatile. And, for me, it was kind of forced versatility because of the situation I was in when I was younger. So I try to share that life lesson with the kids. Like, yeah, you may be tall now, but you may not grow anymore. So you got to expand your game to the perimeter, or, make the game easy. If you got somebody, if you're 6'1" and you got the 5'9" guard on you, go inside. And we got to work on that footwork so you can take advantage of any situation. I want them to be able to go into any situation and be an asset. However a coach wants to use you, have those skills. So we work on everything, top to bottom.
Yeah, I love it. And then so after your daughter makes that comment about not knowing basketball was for girls,
Yeah,
and you kind of dive into the girls' side, did you start your own? You started your own program, right? Is that kind of how you went down that path?
Yeah, so I started. So Twin Cities Elite was something I started. Me and one of my college teammates, we were working and training and trying to put together teams and everything. And so the Minnesota Suns was an AAU program that was kind of up and coming. I didn't know anything about girls basketball at the time. So I started reaching out. I think I'm 25, 26 years old and don't know anything about AAU on the girls' side. All I knew is what I played. So I started sending emails out, sending emails out to different organizations like, hey, I'm interested in coaching. And the only one that responded was the Minnesota Suns. And so I ended up going to a workout, and the director, who was Peter at the time, Peter Long, he kind of had seen my training stuff and kind of knew that about me. And was like, hey, why don't you come in and do some training for us so we can see how you are with the girls or whatever. And I was like, cool. And he didn't have any girls teams available for me to coach. So he offered me a 6th grade boys team. So he was like, you can do 6th grade boys, or you can just do, training for the girls. And I was like, all right, well, I don't really want to coach 6th grade kids at that time. I've been coaching high school. I wasn't prepared to coach young kids. So I was like, I'll just train. And then later on, it came up again. He's like, well, we got the same 6th grade boys team, or we got high school girls. And I'm like, I'll take the girls, and jump in with that, basically for my daughter. And I wanted to be a part of that world, so she was exposed to it. And a lot of things that I do, I jump into it head first and just go hard. So Peter ended up really enjoying the things that I was doing and asked me to be full-time, kind of training all the kids in the organization. So that's kind of how I started. And then I just year by year started to grow more in the program, and I want to understand everything top to bottom. That's just how I am. And that transitioned into him saying he wanted me to take over the organization. And, this year would be my first year as running the entire program. So I basically went from a random dude who sent the email in to now being able to take over the club and shape it and mold it going forward.
That's awesome. And for those that don't know, because I don't know much about girls AAU basketball, but our director of operations, Aaron Sinnott, was a good player in Illinois, played for Chicago Hoops Express, and said that your teams were always really, really tough. Said you guys had some epic battles back in the day.
Yeah. Gerald Davis from Chicago Hoops Express, he has a great program down there. Right now he has one of the top 25 or 30, 2022 players in the country. He's got highly rated players. He had Angela Dugalic, who's at Oregon right now, who was a top 15 player in the country. So they always got talent. And, our goal is to compete with the best in the country. That's what we tell our kids. Like, we want you to be able to compete with the best. So, and Minnesota kids are tough. I tell everybody, Minnesota is an underrated basketball state. So if you go head to head with some Minnesota kids, you're gonna leave with some bumps and bruises because they play tough. We're physical up here. We teach, not only fundamental basketball to be able to pass and cut and create space for yourself and your teammates, but also you gotta do the little things. You gotta do the dirty work. You gotta box. We got a lot of 5'9", 5'10" posts in Minnesota, so you got some tough kids that want to fight for it.
Yeah, Aaron's comment was Minnesota girls are made different.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that probably brings a smile to your face because
absolutely
that toughness comes to life for sure.
Yeah.
So now that you're taking over the program, Dre, and like it's truly yours, how is that going to change things for you, or what different things are you kind of thinking about heading into, the season or whatever, just heading into training your athletes?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, very hands-on with the development of my teams. Like in Minnesota, we have tryouts for AAU for spring ball. We do it in September. I think it's just kind of a trend and a pattern that everybody follows. So you have all these kids that try out for your team in September, and then they go into their fall season and their winter season, and a lot of people don't touch them or see them until you get to the spring. We're completely different. We are all year round, and I've always done that with my teams where we're in the gym constantly. And I think branching that out to the entire organization is extremely important to me, and also getting the coaches involved that want to be those people and want to be invested in the game completely. I think being a kid who kind of could have took the wrong path and had coaches, like I said, who would come pick me up for school to make sure I went to school and take me home to make sure I didn't get on the bus and cause trouble, taking the bus to the city. They wanted to, look out for me. And, I think following that same path of it's never just going to be about basketball. It's going to be about the investment that you make into the kids, into the game. I really expect that, honestly, from coaches that join the organization now. So holding them accountable to that, so then you can keep the kids engaged and involved, because kids want to be in the gym. They want to play. And if you give them the opportunity, they'll show up. So, we're also trying to invest in the girls' game the same way people invest in boys. So it's like we're doing pickup basketball, open gym, every Saturday morning, where girls typically don't play a lot of pickup, at least here. So that's something we want to get girls exposure to. You come in, you play 2s and 3s to 21 or 1s and 2s to 11, and losers off, winners stay. Get that competitive edge. If I want to be on the court, I want to be on the winner's court, that type of thing. We just want to build them, the right way.
I love it. Is your daughter still playing?
Yes. My daughter is
pretty good.
She's good. I don't like to tell her how good she is most of the time because I need her to keep working hard. But, she's been coming to practice, and, last 5 years I've been coaching at Hopkins High School here, and we've had some of the best players and the best player in the country. And so she comes to practice every day and watches these kids work and wants to do what they do. So it's kind of rubbed off on her. So she knows she's good. So I got to calm her down a little bit and pull her back. So she makes sure that she puts the work in to get the details right.
Trey, give us some advice on coaching your kid. That's a whole different dynamic, right?
Oh my goodness. I would say what I try to focus on with my daughter is just effort. She's going to work hard. When we go to the gym and she comes to the gym with me, she's standing there for 2 hours, and you're not going to sit down and watch the iPad and be on the phone, until you put in enough work to earn that. So that's what it's always going to be about. I don't ever want her to feel like she's going to get opportunities because she's my kid. Nothing's going to be handed to you ever in life. So you're going to work for everything. She's going to work hard. She's going to be in the driveway working on her ball handling. She's going to be in the backyard. We got to, she's got the hoop in the backyard. You're going to go out there and shoot. And then we're going to go to the gym. You're going to do it all over again. And you better get your homework done. You better, read do your 30 minutes of reading and everything, because there's no compromises. So she got to clean up after the dog and all that responsibility, because it all sets you up for life. And so that's what I focus on with her, is all the details, like, are you keeping your head up when you're dribbling? Are you, making sure that your elbow's in line and your follow through, you're holding your follow through, your guide hand is straight. I don't really care about, the fancy stuff. Like when she plays, 4th grade traveling basketball, like, I want you to play some defense. I know you can score. Are you going to rebound? Are you going to be the best defensive player on the floor? Are you going to work the hardest? That's what I care about.
I love it. Dre, well, I appreciate you being on here today, man. It's good getting to hear a little bit about your background, and wish you the best of luck, man, as you take over the Minnesota Suns. That's exciting. Congrats.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, we're back with Rashaad Richardson. Rashaad, what's up, man? Coming live from Tulane. I see the fancy background wall. I've been to your gym before. I know there's a lot of nice architecture and woodwork over there. So
hey,
what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good. Appreciate you being with us today.
Man, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us, Rashaad, a little bit about your background. Tell us kind of like where you grew up, how you got into basketball, and eventually coaching.
Okay. Came from some humble beginnings. I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. Born and raised there. My senior year of high school, I had a chance to move down to Tampa, Florida, and play at Ozark Christian. But just a country kid from Charleston, South Carolina. Didn't start playing basketball until the 6th grade. Played at James Island Middle School and went to James Island High. But I never really took it serious. I didn't take basketball serious probably until the 8th grade, when I really started to play AAU, and played on a really good local team. We always stayed in state and played against the best competition, of course, try to get the bid to go down to nationals in Florida. But basketball really changed for me when I started playing for a guy by the name of Curtis Wheeler. He has the Upward Stars now, but at the time we were Team Truth. When I started playing for him, man, he took us all over the country playing some of the best competition. And that's when I started to realize that if I take this thing serious, that I can do something special with it. So after playing for Curtis Wheeler and playing at James Island High, I had a chance to go down to Tampa, Florida, and play at Ozark Christian. My high school coach at the time was Ryan Pannone. So I played for Ryan Pannone my last year of high school, and then earned a scholarship to Georgia State. And my freshman year, I played for Rod Barnes, who's now at Cal State Bakersfield. He's doing a great job with that program. After my freshman year, they decided to part ways with him, and I played for Ron Hunter my last 3. So after playing for Ron Hunter my last 3 years, I kind of wanted a break from basketball. I kind of been playing the game since the 6th grade, and I just wanted to try something different with life. Worked a lot of odd jobs, and then after my first year being out of college, I decided I wanted to get into coaching. And at the time, Georgia State had the best team camp in the state of Georgia. And, I went back and talked to Claude Pardue and Ron Hunter about asking if anybody had any opportunities for this upcoming season at the high school level. And shortly after that, Coach Hunter hired Coach Sharman White out of the Metro Atlanta area. He had just won his 7th state title at Miller Grove. And Coach Sharman gave me a call one day, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing, man? This is Coach Sharman, Georgia State." And it was really nice to meet him, with him just being a new addition to the staff. So he told me about a guy named Dwayne McKinney, who I ended up coaching for at the high school level at Stevenson High School. He said he had just got the job, and he was looking for a young staff to help build a program up. So Coach Sharman White connected me with Dwayne McKinney. Dwayne McKinney gave me my first opportunity, and man, it started moving pretty fast after that, man. we were able to win a couple region titles at Stevenson High School. And this past year, I just got done wrapping up my first college coaching experience. I was coaching junior college basketball at Clarendon College in Clarendon, Texas, in Region 5, under Coach Isaac Amity, who's amazing. He gave me my first opportunity, and that opportunity came through Coach Eric Sullivan, who's the head coach at Lenore Ryan. Coach Sullivan told me about it, and I jumped on it as soon as I heard about it. And man, coaching junior college basketball definitely is an eye-opening experience. It's fun. It's a lot of work, but it teaches you how to grind in this business, and it's a great networking opportunity as well. So this past year, we had a pretty good season. We were able to win a conference and get a lot of guys signed. And with the pandemic happening, Coach Isaac was rewarded a position at Louisiana Monroe. And once I realized I wasn't going back to Clarendon, I kind of was like stuck holding my bag, trying to figure out what the next opportunity was going to be. And man, I still had a good relationship with Coach Hunter and Coach Pardue, and they told me about this grad position here at Tulane. And there's nothing like working with family, so I jumped on it as soon as I could, and it was great. I've been happy to be here, and we're gonna continue to help Coach build this program up and win some games.
Okay, I love it. We got lots to talk about, Rashaad.
Let's do it.
You played for some legends. Holy cow. Curtis Wheeler with Upward Stars, who, if you guys don't know him, anyone listening, one of the best coaches in all of grassroots basketball. What he's done with that program has been unbelievable, turning into a national powerhouse from the little state of South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
And then Coach Barnes, super underrated, legend, Hall of Famer, won everywhere he's been, currently winning a lot at Bakersfield with a weird blue court at that.
Yeah.
And then Coach Hunter, another one of the most underrated dudes in the game, who's done nothing but win everywhere at places like IUPUI, places like Georgia State, where they're not used to winning, and now doing it at Tulane. So for somebody that came to the game late, like you said, what, sixth grade you started playing? To get thrown in, to get thrown in with those men. Man, I don't know if that's lucky or if you were just really good, or like, I don't know, how did you get to those guys?
Kurt, I always played the local team that I played on that was coached by Jason Solomon was called the Charleston Heat. And they were some of the better players in the Charleston area. And we had a guy by the name of Bruce Ellington from the Moncks Corner area that would come and play with us. So, man, we would just play, man. Like at the time, it wasn't a lot of trainers. So it's like you just had to go outside and play every day, just to get better. You play your games at 21 and then, you just wait until you get enough to play 5-on-5. So how I found out about Curtis Wheeler was the Round Ball Classic that used to get played in Charleston every year. We were, of course, a local team, and we were playing against one of Curtis Wheeler's players out of Savannah. And I believe it was Sol C. Johnson. The kid was playing for Sol C. Johnson at the time. And, man, I just had a good game. And shortly after that, Curtis Wheeler walked up to me and my mom after the game, introduced himself, and started talking. And
what's a good game? How many points did you drop on him?
Oh, man, I think it was 18. I think I had 18. Okay. I think it was 18 that night.
Rashaad,
Georgia was really good.
What's the scouting report on you?
Man, volume shooter, man. I like to get them up. I used to love to get them up. I shot a lot of threes. I never thought any shot was a bad shot, which is bad. Kobe's my favorite player, man. Kobe used to let that thing fly, God rest his soul. So I used to try to mock him and do the same thing, man. So I used to definitely try to get up as many shots as possible.
I love it. Are you tall? How tall are you?
6'4". 6'4",
okay.
yeah.
So you had a little height to be able to get those off. Okay, can you talk briefly about each of those coaches, just like what makes each one of them special, anything they have in common or anything like that?
Well, the one thing they all have in common is they are like some of the hardest working people, man. Seeing how, Kurt was hustling back then, just to get us in AAU tournaments and, just to get us opportunity, man. Like I remember selling T-shirts and raffle tickets and things like that so we can have enough money to travel and do things like that, man. So that's one thing. And then Panone, man. Panone is a grinder. That dude, seeing him work hard every day. Coach Barnes, seeing him work hard every day. And the same thing with Coach Hunter, man. I've been fortunate enough to be around a bunch of coaches that literally wake up every day and live the game of basketball, man. They really are like a walking image of what they preach, man. So Curtis Wheeler, man, what makes him special about him, man, is he just has a great way of connecting with kids, man. He still looks 21, obviously. I don't think Kurt will ever age. I think him and Pharrell are related because they just never get old. But Kurt has a great way of connecting with kids, man, and just really making things happen. Ryan Pannone, man, that dude. Another guy that works really hard, not to try to like piggyback off what I was saying with Kurt, but Ryan Pannone is just a grinder, man, sun up to sundown, man. Just seeing how he used to work down there with little to nothing and literally get assigned to all these schools or just get coaches that come in the gym, whether it be a highlight tape. Like I remember him going to the Final Four back in 2010, and he had a book bag full of DVDs with all the seniors, man, and came back with like 2 of them. Like he literally went out there and handed out all our highlight tapes to all these coaches, and then it ended up working because we all ended up coming back and getting signed. Rob Barnes, man, he's seen a lot, man. He's been fortunate enough to be the only coach, I believe, I saw a stat within the past month to win Coach of the Year in the SEC and be first team All SEC as a player. So, I mean, Coach Barnes was great, man. He taught a lot of life into me. He was just so relatable and a very respectable man. And Coach Hunter, man, he's another one that thinks he's 21 with all the energy he coaches with on the sideline. But Coach Hunter, man, he's one of the most positive people ever. He's always thinking positive. And, he just believes he can do anything, man. And I like that about him. And it's good to be working with that in the office every day.
Okay, great stuff. Yeah, and I forgot to mention Coach Pannone, so I'm glad you brought him back up.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely a legend and doing big things in the G League right now, G League head coach.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so take me back to the year after college. You wanted a break from basketball, and I get that, like after a while, you get burnt out a little bit, right? And you said you were working odd jobs.
Yes.
Give me, like, give me an example. What was the oddest job that you were doing?
The oddest job I was doing was I was working on beach homes back home in South Carolina with a friend's dad. His dad owned his own business. So in the Charleston area, we're like kind of in the suburb part out right outside of Mount Pleasant. It's called the Isle of Palms. And, we were out there just working on beach homes, and I would just hustle to try to make as much money as possible and then just continue to figure things out, so we would either like paint the homes or just do any kind of handiwork just to make sure it's prepared and ready for the next spring and summer season so they can be rented out. And of course, in the summertime, I would still be involved with basketball a little bit with working camps. I would always work camps and I would always meet people, but I just still wanted to break from basketball because I still didn't really have a plan yet on what I wanted to do, So actually my main job that I was doing to keep my head above water was valeting cars at the W in Midtown. It's a hotel in Atlanta, a pretty big hotel and gets a lot of business. So I was just doing that. And then that's one day when I just decided to like, hey man, like, I have a degree. I'm a pretty quick learner and I know how to work hard, man. Like, I think I need to get back involved with basketball. So that's kind of how God pointed me in the direction of this career that I'm now pursuing.
So was there a moment where you were like painting a house or running to get a car in like 100-degree weather where you're like, man, forget this. I need to get back in the gym?
Yeah, man, that Georgia humidity. Well, just in the Southeast in general, man, that humidity is different. So like you out there parking cars in the summertime, you working 8 to 10 hours and you're just like, man, like I need to be doing something else. Like I know it's like a calling that I need to have. And how quickly I was able to get an opportunity with the game of basketball on the coaching side let me know that this is what I needed to be doing. And like I like looked up to the sky. I was just like, yo, I'm sorry, God. Like, I'm sorry I was hard-headed. I was just trying to do something else to see if it was a life down that way.
Yeah, that's great. It all happens for a reason.
Yes, sir.
So you jump in at the high school level. Tell me like how that was, that experience. Obviously you guys won a ton of games. But what was it like getting that first taste of coaching and being at that level?
Man, well, my first year coaching, it was a McDonald's All-American in the region that I was coaching in. So it was like a big welcome to high school basketball. Georgia high school basketball continues to like always have a lot of talent. But my first year coaching, Stevenson hadn't won in a while, and Coach McKinney had Southwest DeKalb at one point in time as a national powerhouse because he had Shaq Goodwin, who ended up going to Memphis. But, man, I really learned how to build a program up. The first thing McKinney did was he told us that, we have to get these guys to buy in and create a culture. And that's probably one of the hardest things to do because people can talk about it, but actually doing it is really tough. So, we took our licks early in our first semester, man. Like we were under 500, and we're just in there trying to figure it out. We're in the gym grinding it out, trying to figure out how can we get these guys to continue to believe in us so they can understand how talented they are. And, man, right around Christmas break, man, after the Christmas tournament, it like clicked. Like we ended up going 2-1 in a Christmas tournament in Rockdale County. And then coming back that January, man, things just started to roll. Like we had competed with Jonesboro, or Jonesboro High School was in our region. At the time, they had MJ Walker, who is at Florida State now. And right before the Christmas break, we played them close and lost. And that was the night coach realized that, like, you know, the program was heading in the right direction. So coming back that spring semester, man, we might only lost like one game, which was to Jonesboro because we lost to them twice in the region. And then we ended up beating them in the region championship game. So, man, just coming in that gym every day, understanding that, like, regardless that if you have the bells or whistles or not, like, you have to do work. Like, you have to get in there and grind it out. Like, I know some people are caught up on facilities and just having the fanciest and latest gadgets when it's come to teaching the game of basketball, but the work is still the same, you know? So that right there, being at the high school level, just taught me that, like, as long as you have a gym, you should be able to figure some things out and make things work. But it's all with the buy-in. Like, kids know when you're bluffing, and they know when you're like willing to run through a wall for them. And once they saw that, they were able to jump on board and just run through a wall for us every day and continue to help us win games.
Yeah, that's great. And then you mentioned getting the opportunity at the JUCO level at Clarendon in Texas, which is like, you know, the best leagues in JUCO in the country, Texas, Florida, Kansas, right? So you get thrown in right again
Yes, sir.
at the highest level. Was coaching college something like you definitely wanted to do, and you took this job as a way to get into it, or was it just something about the opportunity that, you know, made it sound appealing to you?
Oh, well, I definitely wanted to get into the college level. And I understand that, like, if you're not a former big time player or just you come from a coaching tree, you have to work your way up, and I'm okay with that. So, I ended up getting a Clarendon job 2 weeks before the high school year was about to start back at Stevenson. I was going to go into my fourth year at the high school level. I played for Eric Sullivan when I was at Georgia State. He was one of Coach Hunter's assistants, and just always kept in touch with him. And he would always ask me, he said, man, if I hear anything, like, would you be like picky about it? I was like, nah. I was like, no, sir. Like, I just need to get in and just figure it out and just continue to work. So he called me and said he had a buddy out in Texas looking for an assistant, you know, and he's just calling around trying to find people. And you're the first person that came to mind. And I was like, sure, like, let me talk to him. And that's when me and Isaac Amity connected. Isaac Amity is a machine, man. Like, that dude know how to work. And this past year was his fifth year at Clarendon. So talking to him, he told me he had a really talented team, and, you know, he was looking to, you know, really make a lot of noise in the conference this year. And he asked me about it. He told me the layout, as far as the pay and the housing situation. And he said, "What'd you think about it?" It was a Thursday when I spoke to him, and I was like, "Coach, can I think about it for like a couple of days?" He said, "Sure." And on Saturday morning around like 10 o'clock, man, I sealed the deal and jumped in my little Nissan Altima and drove 15 and a half hours across the country, chasing his dream.
And that JUCO experience you mentioned, it teaches you how to grind.
Oh,
I always used to say, like, every year coaching JUCO takes like 5 years off the end of your life because of all the stuff you got to do.
Yeah, man, it's cool, man. Man, yeah, you got to work, man. I did a lot of driving. I can tell you that. Did a lot of driving. There's no flying in JUCO, man. And Texas is a big state. Texas should be like 3 states. They need to redraw those lines, but Texas is a big state to be driving up and down. Yeah, like I was so desperate that I didn't even realize that I was going into one of the better conferences in JUCO. You know, if you'd have asked me prior to that phone call about Region 5 or anything regarding South Plains or Odessa or New Mexico military, I'd have told you I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I was just hungry, and I just jumped on an opportunity because I was like, you know, like, just walking out on faith, you know, like, God is always going to give us opportunity. It may not look like the way we want it to, but, you know, he's going to give it to us in a way he feel it needs to be presented for us to step out on it. So when I got out there, people were calling me, like, "Hey, man, like, you're like, do you know where you're at? Like, you're going to be playing this team and this team." I was like, man, I don't know, man. I just said yeah to a job, and I'm just trying to figure it out. Like, and the way Isaac Amity got up every day and led us, man, like, people always talk about how that season went, and I was just like, man, it was Isaac. He literally woke up every day and brought it, and it was just easy to just follow suit and catch up to his work pace and just continue to keep the program afloat.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then how's it been at Tulane, back with Coach Hunter? For how many months now have you been there?
It's going on 4 months.
4 months.
Yeah, it's going on 4 months. Yeah, so it's been great, man. man, I miss being around Coach Hunter, man. As a player, it was good to play for him, and now just being on the side of the coaching side of it and helping him build a program up is good, man. Nate Summers was at Georgia State with him. Claude Pardue was with him, and I actually played for Claude when he was on that staff too. And it's just good just to be back around family, man. Like, they have a great environment here, and they're just allowing me just to continue to just step out on faith and grow, man. Like, the responsibility that they trust me with so far has been amazing. It just can have an input from a GA level with this team, and I really love it, and I'm appreciative of it.
And you go from like driving across the state of Texas at the JUCO level, probably eating, McDonald's for pregame meal, to now you're at Tulane. You got a ton of gear. You got some nice wood panel walls behind you. You're living in luxury now, right?
Man, complete 180. Complete 180, man. I mean, yeah, just past year I was living in the desert, and didn't have all the bells and whistles, man, but I still wake up every day and treat the grind the same way. It's like, we got to get in that gym and put the work in, and just get this team to where it needs to be so it can compete in this tough conference. So, like, yes, the setup is a huge difference, but I still treat it the same as if I'm waking up in Texas and got to work every day.
I love it. Rashaad, what advice would you give somebody who is, trying to get their foot in the door, or, whatever, no matter where they're at in their career, what advice would you give to a coach?
Man, don't be picky. I know some people are so desperate and eager to get to the D1 level, but it really it's hard work. I had to jump in at the high school level and then go JUCO. You just never know when your opportunity is going to present itself until you jump out on faith and continue to work. So, I mean, you have to just be willing to see any opportunity as opportunity to grow with it, because people win with every opportunity if they go into it with that mindset. I mean, I could have been picky and said, I don't want to start at the high school level, or I don't want to go to JUCO and stuff like that. But I mean, each time I said yeah to those opportunities, something greater came out of it. So, I mean, if it's a job where the pay may not be where you think it needs to be, or it's not in a location you may think you want it to be in, it's just like, still take it, like, go get it and win with it. Like, it's easier said than done. And it was like, it's not, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like I was just striving. It was some long days, it was some days when I was questioning if this is what I want to do, or if this is really going to work for me, because it's like, it just felt like I just couldn't catch a break. And, we never know when our break is going to come, but you can create that in a way too by just continuing to work and jumping on opportunities. So my advice would be, just don't be picky with your opportunity when someone, is reaching out to you about it.
Great stuff, Rashaad. Well, I appreciate you being on here today. It was good talking to you, and we'll look forward to rooting you guys on this year at Tulane.
Man, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.